see that smile on your face.
That was a nice intro.
Thank
I
you.
love those graphics. I'm like, my goodness.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, welcome back to Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast. As you know, we're going to keep bringing those life experiences. Ain't that right, Sid? We want to welcome Laura Richards to our as an honor as a guest today on our show. Laura went through over 30 years of a relationship dealing with a narcissist. Laura is going to tell you all about it. So, Laura, welcome to Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast. Can you tell our guests a little bit about you?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I love to talk about this because I always say I have to warn the others. I really do. I spent 33 years with a narcissist. I was married for 32 and we spent 33 years together. And, I didn't even know what that was. Um, I have 3 grown children and I thought I was having like a marriage, but sometimes it was really hard. And it wasn't until we got divorced, which I thought we were getting divorced for irreconcilable differences, did I figure out all the lies. They started to unravel and I started to see all the lies that were happening. And then I figured out I was dealing with a narcissist and I had been for 33 years. And so now I started a podcast. We can even talk about how I did that, but I started talking about it on social media, really to help others a little bit out of being petty, but really to tell others, their tricks and their tactics so that other people don't get swindled or bamboozled like I did. And I do joke and say I must warn the others, and so that's what I do. And so I talk about it on my podcast, and really nothing is off limits. We talk about how to heal too, because that's the most important part, and who I am after divorce, because there is hope and there is healing after dealing with a narcissist. That is for sure. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us again, Laura.
Sure.
So we always start at the beginning. Sometimes most of the time we notice that, upbringings kind of bring you to the trajectory of which ended up in. So what was your home structure like? What was growing up like? And did you experience any traumas as an adolescent?
I didn't I don't think I experienced any traumas, that you would think about like child abuse or something, but we did have some family trauma and I do think that that affects the family, because once one person goes through something, it does affect the whole family. So I really truly feel like I started a podcast because no one listened to me growing up and in my marriage. And so it was one of those things where I think little Laura really wanted to be loved and listened to and cared for. And I think my parents were doing the best they could with their own traumas and their own issues. And so I think, when I think back to my childhood, it was really good, but I do feel like I wasn't loved the way I wanted to be loved, thinking back now. And so the way that my ex and really other boyfriends really approached me and maybe love bombed me, gave me what I wanted, it kind of, that's why it was so easy to trick me, I guess, into a relationship where somebody was really caring for me, but I was dealing with a narcissist because that's what they do. They start to love bomb you and they look for those emotionally fragile people.
Okay, so I guess we're not going to stay in the childhood too much because
Okay.
it seems like go. But I do want to ask one question, and
Yeah.
Sid may have a piggyback. So not being loved the way you wanted to be loved, why did you feel that way as a child?
I feel like when I think back, my parents were, we were probably, you think back, I never wanted anything. But thinking back, I think we were probably poorer than I think. And both my parents were working and maybe they just didn't have the emotional capacity to give me the attention I wanted. And so I often felt like I my stories weren't important, or I wasn't listened to enough, or I don't know, it's just that kind of thing. And so I felt almost like misunderstood and uncared for, even though I wasn't neglected or anything. I just think they were doing the best they could. And maybe I didn't even know what I wanted. But as you do healing and you get clarity, you start to see what the little you wanted. And that's what, why you choose the relationships you choose, because it starts to fill a need in you.
Absolutely. Now, most of the time in like our healing journeys, we kind of review things that we probably would have never thought about before in the
Yeah.
process. Now, we're thinking back on things, maybe they didn't seem so crazy as a child, but were there any, of similar dynamics between your own parents? Or was it just a issue of like, they work and home, and
Right.
they didn't show the proper example rather than
Right.
showing a negative example? So how was their relationship like, and what did you,
Yeah.
get from that?
My parents were married up until the time my mom passed away just a few years ago. But I always wondered, was everybody really happy? Who knows? And I do see some similarities with my ex and my dad. Maybe I think with his own, I don't know. I think my dad was a little gaslighty. God, I hope he's never going to listen to this. No, but I really do think that my dad did a little bit of gaslighting on my mom, and I haven't really unpacked that because I don't really want to. I'm not going to go there, I don't think. But I do think that that was definitely something that happened in my household, because I remember my dad saying certain things to us about my mom, and that was what my ex would do. My ex would say things about me to our kids. And as I started to unpack things, I'm like, oh, yes. Okay. So this was similar, and probably why it felt normal for a long time, because that's what I saw growing up.
Okay. Yeah. So that's what we try to get at. Like,
Yeah.
what is that similarity? Okay. So I'm gonna go. I guess I'm gonna jump on. How did you meet um your ex-husband, and how do you? It's a twofold. How do you feel as though he willed you in?
Well, when we were in college, we were all friends. I had my college boyfriend, his college girlfriend. We were all friends. And then we were both with our boyfriend and girlfriend for a long time. In fact, we were both engaged to the other people. And I was with my boyfriend for 5 years from high school. And, I didn't even give myself time to grieve. And so we both had breakups at that time. We both broke up with them, not because of each other, just because that's what happened. Things changed. And and so the next thing you know, my ex is like, "Oh, you're kind of cute. Maybe we should go out. I never thought of you that way." And that's part of the grooming process. They groom you by starting to tell you all those nice things that they think you want to hear. And so they don't like to be alone. And so I didn't even give myself a minute to grieve. I was jumping right into the next relationship. And so then with my ex, going from this boyfriend I had for 5 years, jumping right into this relationship with my ex, and, hearing all the things that I wanted to hear, which was, oh, I want to get married right away, and I want to have kids, and I want to have this great life. And that's part of the love bombing. And that's how I easily, that was touching that part of me that really wanted to be loved and married and kids and all that. I wanted that dream, and he was willing to provide it. And that's why it was easy to get me. Look, I freely admit
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
I'll admit it too.
Yeah.
Now, with you all, previously been in contact with each other, everybody was all friends and whatnot.
Yeah.
Were there any instances where, just in a matter of girl talk, you talk about an argument or anything that's happened, and you kind of run into the same issue, that you all had discussed previously. Did anything kind of like, resort your mind back to like, dang, I remember her telling me about A, B, and C?
No, because the thing is that they have that facade, they're different around just you, and they're different when they're out in public with a group. So that's the hard part, is that you're dealing with different things. And I don't remember her saying anything like that. And that's what's strange, is because we were all good friends. So I don't know why. I think because I was too young. I didn't even have a full brain. I'm just gonna, blame it on that. I was 22. And so I just don't remember any of those kinds of things. No warning signs. And if I saw a red flag, I sure ignored it. It's like, I don't see that.
So you were in love.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially if he's offering the dream, right? The dream that I want of getting married and having kids and all that. We had both been engaged for a long time, and he was, offering, let's get married, right away because we love each other and all this. And we've been in long engagements. And so it was, yes, it was the perfect package.
Got you.
Yeah.
So when did you start to notice signs of the difference of what he told you and now it's reality?
Look, I just thought he was a jerk, and we would just not be able to figure things out. And, that's a trauma response when you try to convince somebody that you're worth being loved, rather than going, what the hell is this? And why are you treating me like crap? And it's a trauma response, and it could be left over from childhood or something. And so I was very much one of these people that was trying to convince him that if I could just explain my side of the story a little bit better, he would understand what I wanted or what I needed, or that he was treating me poorly or whatever. But I did not know anything about narcissism, gaslighting, any of these words that we hear. Did not know one thing about it until just a couple of years ago. And now I feel like I'm an expert. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's just one of those things that, now we can kind of put a name and a face to it.
Yeah.
Or more people can now, in the wide world web, share their experiences.
Yes.
And it all links to a common thing.
Right. And that's the thing, is that, I got married in 1990, you know what I mean? So there's not like the internet and stuff like that. And unless you're talking with your girlfriends, which I did, and it was more of he's being a jerk. He's making me, whatever. He was complaining about certain things and I didn't know how to fix it. And it wasn't that he's being a narcissist and whatever, except towards the last couple of years, my friends were like, he hangs around that woman a little too much. And we did go to counseling over women. That's a need that he had. They often have a mother wound, and so they try to fill it with women. They always need to have somebody, on the hook. And so that was an issue for sure. And that was probably our biggest fight, is other women. No matter if they were even around. And that's the thing that people don't understand, is that these things that are called like dog whistling. Dog whistling is when they will bring up a subject that they know bothers you. And so he would bring up like old girlfriends from high school, and he'd be like, oh yeah, they called me this cute pet name. And then he would want them, he would find a way to work that pet name into something. So it would bother me. And that's a dog whistle. They get you in weird little places. And yeah, that was hard. So it's those kinds of things. It's incremental, right? It's not one big thing that's happening. It's incremental. And that's why it didn't seem like it was so hard to fix. Like, if I could just figure this out and explain it to him, he'll figure it out and it will be fine. But he just couldn't figure it out. Could never figure it out.
So he was around women. I dealt with a narcissist, and not that they're just around women, they're fooling around with women.
Yeah.
Did he cheat on you with some of these women?
So we had gone to therapy, even if it was, I never caught him physically cheating, but he did a lot of emotional cheating for me, getting way too close, having to go to therapy over certain people that I was like, oh God, I'm like, you are just inappropriate with them and all this stuff. And then this last one, who he actually has married. He was too close to her all the time. We would all go out to dinner because we were friends, and I would say, "You flirt way too much with her. I don't like it. It's not okay." And of course, they always say they're going to stop and they're sorry, and I don't mean anything by it, and that you're the problem, really, because I'm making a problem out of it. And it just was too much, to the point where I just felt like I told him, I said, "I know you guys are going to end up together." And he said, "Oh no, we're just friends." They're married now. So they're never just friends. P.S. Everyone, let me save you some therapy. They're
So do you think he was messing with her while y'all were all sitting going out together?
Yeah, if anything, he was grooming her. And that's what I will say, because he did it to me.
Mm.
Okay. So he was grooming her, and right in front of my face, and I was so manipulated and yeah, just manipulated, that I allowed it. I would see things that they get you to the point where you're not going to complain. You're not going to complain about it, because then you're a problem. And they make they make sure that you're very small and you don't say things, and because, oh, you're such a problem because you complain about everything and all these kinds of things, right? And so I saw it in front of my face. I would just, every time, and it just got to be more and more and more, to the point where I was like, I can't take this anymore. And yeah, I, ripped him a new one when we were in the middle of the divorce, because he went off camping with her. And that was a no-no in our marriage. And I'm like, yeah, I don't believe that separated is the same as divorce. Um, I have no idea. Maybe my next marriage I will. I have no idea. But I don't believe that. I felt like, until the day we're divorced, this is my husband and you need to back off. And I didn't say anything. 2024, Laura would have gone to her house and maybe knocked on her door and said, "Why do you think you're allowed to do what you just did?" But it was also his fault. He was grooming her and bamboozling her. She's the next one. Yeah.
Sure.
I
And
know.
was it just a matter of, like, I guess, telling her, in fallacies about what was going on between you two? Like,
Yeah.
how does that even happen?
Right.
You know?
Well, that's what they do, is they tell stories. I know, because my kids have told me. My kids are grown, and so they have told me, "Dad used to complain about you guys and say things about you behind your back." And I said, "Oh, yes, I know that." Because that's part of their thing. It's the smear campaign. And so you think things are fine, but behind the scenes, they are talking bad about you. And that is how then they can be, when they leave the marriage, or you get a divorce or whatever, they can say, "Oh yeah, it was such a terrible marriage." And people can say, "Oh, thank God you're out of that marriage, because I know it was so terrible. I felt like I could never win over his family, and now I know, because my kids have told me, oh, yeah, he used to talk shit about me all the time, and I was never going to win. It just wasn't ever going to happen." And so I'm sure that's what he was telling her. So she didn't see anything wrong, because he was grooming her, and everybody loves him. I'll just tell you right now, everybody loves him. That's all I would hear. "Oh, your husband is so great." Okay. But at home, he's a jerk and he's mean to me. So that's the thing. That's why it's hard. In emotional abuse, there's no physical scars, right? And so it's hard for people to believe it sometimes.
I went through the same
Mm,
exact thing, with
I'm
the
so sorry.
flirting in front of me with the
Ugh,
women, with the making me look bad to the
yeah.
family, talking about. I went through the same exact thing, but this is not about me. This is about you. I just felt that moment to say that.
Well, I think it's
Sid, did you have
important
another?
to say that. I think it's
Mhm.
because people need to know. Unfortunately, our stories are not uncommon. And why I started talking about it on my podcast, because I really felt alone and I felt really dumb when I found out what happened to me. Like, once the blindfold came off, I was like, I feel so dumb that I didn't see this. I felt so stupid. I felt so ashamed. And I didn't want one more woman to feel like that. So I think that was important that you told us that. Thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure. Sid, did you have a question before I ask one, or you ask your? Okay. Um, I was going to ask, did you, obviously you were talking to her, but after, did you warn her um, about him before she got with him? And do you think that he will do the same thing to her that he did to you?
Well, I know it's already happening because my children have told me some things here and there, and I'm like, red flag, that's a red flag. Your dad's not going to change. But, they get somebody who now follows the rules because I stopped following the rules. I started complaining more. And no, you can't warn the next one because they won't believe you because the smear campaign has been going on and you're the crazy ex. Okay. So, uh, and if I show up and say, he's going to do this, 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 and this. Okay, but what am I going to say to her? Here's a perfect example of how I would look crazy. She got a big ass diamond ring. So did I. My ring was bigger than his last fiance. Her ring is bigger than mine. And people don't see that as a red flag. Yes, it is a red flag because she's got this shiny thing in front of her to distract her from the crap that's going on over here. And that's why it's hard to go like, oh, my husband was mean to me. It's not that. It's like psychological abuse. Every tiny little thing, a drip, drip, drip constantly for 33 years to the point where I didn't even want to be alive anymore because I thought I was going crazy.
It's real. It's
It is.
definitely real. You get conditioned, and 33
Yeah,
years is, ooh, that's a long time.
it
A
is.
long time. That's about my life almost.
I know.
I,
It's kind of embarrassing, but that's okay. I've gotten
it's
over it.
it's not. I before I would call anyone in that situation, dumb or stupid or anything like that. You are doing what you vowed to do.
Yeah,
You stuck it out. You did everything you could.
yeah,
You said you did what you said you were going to do at the altar. So
right.
I do respect people that do give it a chance. That even have hope that
Right.
anything will be different. Like it's uncommon to have hope these days. So it's just like
Yeah,
even if it's some wild fantasy that it may happen,
yeah,
it's almost just like you have to feel for someone like that to still see
yeah,
lights or still be hopeful in something like that. So
yeah.
I don't, my first initial thought isn't to call someone dumb for that, but
Well, I appreciate that. That's how I felt because I'd never heard any other stories, until I started doing this kind of work or even researching online. Thank God we have YouTube and everything, right? To be able to go online and like find information. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not crazy. This is all real. And really, I was able to unravel 33 years and go like, okay, so now I can move forward. And so like this person, I was not this person before. And this has taken almost 2 years of work. And, I'm just thrilled with the kind of life I can lead and the kind of peace I have. And that's sort of the next thing I want to start talking about, on my podcast because I don't think people understand when you've had such trauma, the amount of peace you can have with your healing. And I think it's important. Then we can do this kind of work and talk about all these things, right?
right, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Mhm.
I would agree. Um, can you let the audience know um to bring awareness some signs of
Mhm.
narcissistic behaviors and maybe give like an
Sure.
example of it?
Mhm. So the one thing is they like to rush things. And so that's your biggest clue is that they love you right away. They want you to meet their family right away. They want you to meet their kids right away, whatever. So you're going on a date, maybe a first date or something, and all of a sudden you're basically getting married, And so these are the things that's the biggest red flag is they tend to rush. And the reason a lot of times is because they wear a mask, right? A mask of sorts with their facade of the way they are in the world and they can only hold it on for so long. So they want to rush to really lock you in, to being girlfriend or being their wife or whatever. So it's a rushing kind of thing. That's the biggest thing. And then also, you have the gaslighting thing where every time you bring something up, they will tell you, well, that's not how it happened. I didn't say that. And it's constant of, I don't even know what the word is, but really manipulating everything that you've said to really not be true, to the point where you're going, well, really, and then even just treating you poorly, like, well, you've been really tired lately. I don't think you remember it correctly. Things like that. Maybe a little bit of you're catching them in lies, or maybe they're hiding their phone. But the biggest thing is the rushing. They rush to everything. And that's what happened to me. So I know firsthand.
Yes. I always like to know what that kind of key moment was once you realized that you were done. like that
Yeah.
that we moving on now. So
Yeah.
was there like a particular just kind of like I dropped the mic moment, that it all made sense and you had to, get out of this relationship?
Well, we had gone to therapy, and it's really recommended if you are in a relationship with someone who is narcissistic. Okay, so they don't need to be diagnosed or anything, but they really have the tendencies. And the thing is that it's intent. So someone who's not toxic, someone who's healthy, will try and work on the relationship with you. But someone who's toxic is not even it's gonna be their way or the highway, and that's the way it is. Well, we had gone to therapy, and which you're not supposed to do. Actually, a national domestic hotline, abuse hotline, says don't go to marriage counseling with anyone who has a power control over you. And this is a power control, because they'll use your vulnerability against you. And so actually during therapy, the therapist actually told me, because he charmed her too, that he was very handsome, and what was I complaining about? And so yeah, it was like one of the worst things. And that was towards the yes, a professional. Don't worry, I complained. And I was like, what is happening right now? And so I started to understand what was gaslighting, because that's gaslighting. Someone who's totally invalidating your feelings and saying, what are you complaining about? Like, you've got it good over there. And that's part of the gaslighting. And so he just he would say to her, and this is when I started to be like, I'm done. He would say to her, yeah, I'm really willing to work on this marriage and I want everything to be great. And then we would hang up the phone. We were on Zoom, and he would walk out of the room and still treat me the same. And I would even tell her, he's not doing it. He hasn't done one lick of homework, nothing. He's not treating me any different. And then that's when she told me, what do I have to complain about? And so he told me one day, if our life is going to continue like this, then you need to tell me you're done, which is what they do. They're never going to be the one who says they're done, because then they can play the victim. They can be like, oh, she left me. And then they can get sympathy for that. And so I said, why do I have to tell you I'm done? And he said, well, I guess, I'm not willing to do it. And I started to say, do you think we could work it out? I really don't know why I said that, other than I probably would have stayed forever if he would have said, give me a little more bread, little breadcrumb. And then I said, you know what? I'm done. I was midway through a sentence. You know what? I'm done. And I stood up and left the room. I didn't talk to him for 2 days, and that was it. And I never looked back. And yeah, I was so proud of myself. And guess what? My kids were proud of me too. All three of them texted me separately and told me they were proud of me for doing that, because they saw it. They saw I was miserable. I know it's staying for the kids. I mean, people do it, but they don't recommend it. They really don't. They really don't recommend it, because everybody's miserable. And what are you teaching? Just if we go by daughters, right? What are we teaching our daughters? That it's okay to sit in abuse just because you have children? It's not okay. And I don't promote divorce. I promote not being in abuse.
So do you feel like your kids were traumatized from what their dad did to you, their mom?
Yeah. They saw it, but I don't think they saw it exactly the way I did because I was really the target. And so they just thought he was kind of demanding and things like that. And they really did think he was the best. Now I say was because two of them don't speak to him anymore. Once he started to show his true colors, they made choices. The two oldest made choices to no longer have a relationship with him. But he was really like the circus dad. That's what I called him. He was the circus dad. And now that's okay. Now that's coming to me. It's really funny because I call him a clown now. So that's kind of funny. He was the circus dad. He was always having fun and he was the best. And then, oh, mom is always tired and cranky and everything else. And, so that's what they saw. And then once we were divorced and they started to see him on his own, because I had no contact, they were like, "Who is this guy? He's like a different person." They started to see who he truly is, and two of them have chosen not to be with him in relationship anymore. So, the two oldest.
Now, have you seen, patterns of what he always does, with the kids that, no longer have contact with them? I'm sure that was a ride before that decision was actually made, but do
Yeah.
you see him kind of displaying those same victim tactics with your children and trying
Oh,
to,
yeah.
rope them into their feeling guilty about how they feel?
Oh, yeah, for sure, and, our oldest has completely blocked him on everything because he would not stop texting her because he was just saying she said, "It's too soon. Why are you with this woman? Isn't that the woman mom's been crying about for 7 years? Why are you with her?" And he's like, "Why can't you just be happy for me?" So it was that guilt tripping, right? "Why can't you just be happy for me?" Why can't you be part of my life? I want to be happy. I was miserable with your mom. I want to be happy now. And them knowing that I tried because I was on my own in therapy. I was praying, I was journaling, I was in every Bible study, I was doing everything to try and fix my marriage. And so they knew that. They knew that I was trying and I will die on the hill on that. I really worked really, really hard on the marriage, but it takes two. It wasn't, I can't be the only one doing anything.
So I was gonna ask, did he do anything else besides like the narcissist? Did he physically put his hands on you, or just he emotionally, verbally
Mhm.
abused you?
So just emotional abuse. So, Lord help me. No. No, it was emotional abuse. Though, the thing is, and I've talked about this before, and I think I need to unpack it at some point, is, at some point he stopped, he said, "I'm not going to have sex with you anymore." And that can be considered physical abuse. Anytime you have any kind of coercive control, it's abuse. You know what I mean? And so what did he, "I'm just not going to have sex with you anymore." That's a way to control anything that he did, anything that anybody does to try to control or manipulate you is abuse. And it's hard when it's psychological abuse because it's hard to see, especially when it's only one person. And even the kids had a different experience, right? Like I just said. And yeah, so it's been hard. I've lost a lot of friends because they don't understand. And they don't understand why I'm talking about it because that's not who they know. They don't know that guy. I'm like, "Well, of course you don't know that guy." But that doesn't mean that wasn't my story. So,
Definitely. And knowing you, I don't know why people say that, like, especially that know you, because it's just like,
I know.
would I lie about anything else, like, of that
No.
magnitude? Like, why would I lie
Yeah,
about that after
right.
30 something years of
Yeah.
wasted time? And it, like, there was nothing in it for you to lie, but
No,
yeah.
exactly. Like, but it's okay. It's a natural part of when you're healing and growing. When we're doing our healing journey, it's not for everybody because they only see you a certain way.
Mhm.
And some people only like you the way they've had control over you, especially family. Maybe family only sees me a certain way. And so maybe they don't understand it now because I've changed I really have changed. Though my friends say basically I'm the same person. I'm just more confident, and I just like I have boundaries, and I didn't used to. I really didn't. And now I can say no, and I can stay out of situations I don't want to be in. And I can tell people, hey, that is not okay the way that person is talking to you or something like that. Just trying to, like I said, I warn the others.
Absolutely. And my question was, sometimes with abusive relationships, whether it's physical or not,
Yeah,
was he or did you find yourself, being isolated from the people you love, or people that at least are, shoot it straight,
right.
would have called it out, or would have, put a little bug
Yeah.
in your ear? Did you find yourself being isolated from any of those type of people in your life?
The things I remember when I started to recall things was I remember there were certain people in my life that were really strong women. And I remember he would say, "I really don't like her for you as a friend." And I remember those kind of things thinking like nothing happened. Like why would he say that to me? But those things started coming back to me as I've been doing my healing. And I'm like, "Oh, because he was trying to isolate me from people who were strong." And maybe had a voice, and maybe I would have gotten a voice, and he wouldn't have liked that. Because I did towards the end want to start speaking like to women about different things like encouragement, stuff like that. Nothing about this kind of thing, but he didn't like that. And they also don't want you to be bigger than they are. And so that's how he isolated me. He would say, "Yeah, I really don't like them." And then we wouldn't be able to see them again. Now, if we met some of his friends and they really liked me, because of course they would. I don't There wasn't a reason not to like me. I'm a decent human being. I'm funny and whatever. And he would say, "Yeah, they didn't really like you." And then he would tell them I didn't like them. And so then we would never see them again. So he would isolate in certain ways like that. That's what they do.
Control. Yeah, that's what they
Mhm.
do.
Yeah.
I want to ask this. Please don't take offense to what I'm about to
Okay.
say, because right now in my life, I'm like, I take a lot accountability for a
Okay.
lot of things in my life. So I was gonna ask, do you feel like you allowed him to abuse you?
So that's a really good question because I think in a way, I did, right? Because I had a need and I didn't know technically I was being abused. And so I think I allowed a lot of things because it was so incremental that my self-esteem was so low that whenever he would say certain things to me, maybe if he said something rude to me or whatever, it was easier not to pick a fight because every single thing you say back by saying, "That was mean. Why did you talk to me that way?" or whatever, it became a fight. It became a huge fight about how I'm a terrible person, not him. And you made me do it and all this. And so I got very, very quiet by the end to where he could almost say or do anything and I wouldn't say anything because it was easier not to. So that's where I would say yes, I allowed it because I turned into that. That's how I was created over the 33 years. And that's what happens is you don't even recognize yourself. And that's the one thing that I really started to think about was I didn't even recognize myself at the end. I didn't know who I was. What I started to say was, I really want to find out who I am or find myself, right? Some people do that, right? They're having a midlife crisis. I want to find myself. Well, that's because I didn't know who I was. I was so manipulated. I was so foggy headed. I literally didn't want to be alive, or I wanted to check myself in somewhere to a mental health facility to get some help because I really couldn't think straight anymore. But it was all part of the manipulation and abuse.
They messed you up real bad because in the end, I didn't know who I was. I was confused. I didn't have
Right.
a identity, and
That's
I
it.
attempted
That's it.
suicide
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't it's hard for people to understand, but I'm glad you said that because it's like your identity. You really don't know who I am. Because I've had people say, well, like this person allowed that. I go, no, not this person, not 2024, Laura. No, before that. Yes. I was a shell of a person by the end. So that's why I got to tell everybody.
No, it's true. It's like you're on a ledge, like,
Yes.
and one foot is off of the ledge,
Yeah.
and the other foot is ready to go off of the
Yeah.
ledge.
You're just
It's just
hanging on.
something.
You're
Yes,
hanging on by
it's
a thread.
yeah. I tell you, it's something. It's just like God pulls
Yeah.
you back.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank
Yep.
God. Seriously. Like, seriously. I'm glad I woke up when I did because, I think if I would have died, I don't think he would have cared because they really don't care. They just want you out of the picture. I think he was ready to move on. And I even said to my therapist, I said, I don't understand. Why didn't he ask me for a divorce? And she goes, oh, he never would have. He would have just hung on forever as long as I was allowing it. So in that way, right, when he was off doing whatever he was doing, if you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. And I kept giving them an inch because they keep giving you that breadcrumb. The breadcrumb is, oh, you did good. And now they say a nice thing to you. But the thing with breadcrumbs is you're going to starve. You can't live off of breadcrumbs. And that's what you have to realize. You can't, they just do that to try to go back so that you think you can go back to the good times. But you can't go back to those good times. And that's what I thought we were going to do at some point. I thought we were going to get back to the good times. We never did.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
So, do you believe that, within your family unit, the cycle stops at yourself, or have you noticed any, choices in significant others with your children that, just it kind of seem familiar? How is everything
Yeah.
heading on you all, now that things are a little different?
Right. That's a great question. I was really worried about that, but a few months, I've had some great healing with my grown children. So I really encourage everybody who has children that it's never too late to have healing, to have apologies, to have discussions with your grown children, even if they don't necessarily believe you. Listen, the theme in my family was that mom was crazy and mom was terrible. And even the kids went along with it. I've had my kids apologize for their part in what they did to me, like the gaslighting and all that, and participating with dad. And I've apologized for all those times that I felt unsupported and I felt like almost like a single mom and I felt like I was going crazy. And so I was, an angeraholic and I was really, I would scream at my kids and all that. I've apologized for all that because we can sit and say, um, that that we did these things, right? And say, well, this was the reason he was abusing me, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to say, I'm so sorry that that happened. So I've had a lot of healing with that. So all that to say is my kids are all grown. They're 30 to 25 and we have had great discussions and a couple of them are in therapy and the other one is doing really good and I don't see any issues and we do have discussions about it and they are well aware, thank God, for all the stuff that they do. The youngest one has a relationship with his dad and he sees his toxic behavior and he's not like that, and I'm so thankful for that. So, and I told him, I said, if I ever see you like with a girlfriend and you're treating her a certain way, I'll tell you right now, I will call you out. But they're doing good. But,
Good.
therapy and really having discussions. You have to be vulnerable. They were kind of like, Mom, why are you talking about this? But then they were like, just do you. Go ahead and do it. I don't say their dad's name. So unless you know me, you don't know who he is. It doesn't matter who he is.
Yeah, exactly. Um, Hopefully it's not my old boss, but one of my old bosses
Can you imagine?
acted like that would be crazy, right?
I think about that with all the people I meet. I'm like, what if somebody knows him? Just anyway,
Ex-
but I really don't
ex-
care. I don't care. I'd say it to his face. I don't care. You
ex-
you don't like what I'm saying? You should have treated me differently. I'm only
ex-
I'm telling facts.
exactly. I was gonna ask, how do you feel that he was turning the kids against you during that time?
Yeah. It was really with the gaslighting. So one of the things that were really, really clear to me was the gaslighting and saying like, "Do you see mom? She's being crazy." And so this is how it would happen is my one son who has totally apologized for this. And so but it's okay to say it. He would say like, "Mom, you seem upset." And I would literally just be sitting here like this. And I'd be like, "No, I'm not upset." "Oh, well, you're doing that voice that you pretend that you're not upset, but you are upset." And I'd be like, "No, I'm not upset." And then they would just keep doing that and pushing and pushing and pushing to the point where, and this is a thing. It's called reactive abuse, but I don't really like that because I feel like it's reactive rage. It's not reactive abuse to me. And so to the point they push your buttons, they keep going like you seem like you're upset. And then they keep doing it until you actually react because you're trying to defend yourself. And why should I spend 20 minutes trying to explain to you that I'm not upset when you think I am? And so they would do stuff like that. Or because he was so fun, they would say, "You're always the complaining, you're always setting the rules, you're always doing those kinds of things." Well, somebody's got to set the rules. We got to have rules in the house at some point. Can't just be a party all day long. And so they would complain that way. And he would just go along with it. He'd be like, "Yeah, you are being a little too much," or those kinds of things. And so that's the kind of thing that the kids have apologized for really going along with everything he would say about me. If
He's
they were saying something poorly about me, he would just go along with it and be on their side, never on my side. And they've apologized for that. And so it's good.
he is petty. He set the kids up to abuse you too,
Yeah,
indirectly.
exactly.
That
And they
is gaslighting,
Oh,
big
it's so
time.
and it's so disgusting. And that's the thing is that you don't realize it's happening. And that's why I really think about if you have the opportunity to unpack all that and then apologize to your children or even talk about it with your kids, it's great. Not to go like, "You owe me an apology." Listen, my kids apologized to me without me asking, and I apologized to them without them asking me. And they were like, "Oh my gosh, I'd never thought that you would apologize for those kinds of things." It's in their heart and they may not even if they're grown, they may not be able to verbalize it. We all have a need, right? Maybe something from our childhood for all we know. And, I love it even to this day. My dad's 83 and he says, "I'm so proud of you." My dad, that's not my dad. My dad doesn't say those kinds of things, but he's starting to. And it's like, I will take it. It's going to fill this little Laura's heart. You know what I mean? I will take it that he's saying he thinks I'm proud, he's proud of me. So yay.
That's wonderful. Now I know you did say, he kind of separated you from those that he probably felt that may sway you.
Yeah.
Was there anyone significant or anyone particular that you can remember that did kind of see through the BS, or maybe have mentioned it or tried to maybe
Yeah.
get you assist on the time that you were depressed or something like that? This kind of peeped the vibes. Was there anybody
Yeah.
that noticed what it really was?
No one noticed what it was until I do have a friend that's a good friend. She told me recently, she said, "I kind of thought that maybe he was doing that. He was a narcissist," because she had been married to a narcissist, because she would see certain things like my behavior would change. I would be, very walking on eggshells around him. I would make sure everybody, he was okay and everybody was okay kind of thing. And so she suspected, but she never mentioned it. And she said, have a feeling you wouldn't have been receptive." And I know I wouldn't have been receptive because I would have made an excuse like I always did. "Well, he's just tired and I just want to make sure everything's okay. He doesn't know anybody at this party. So I want to make sure everybody's okay." I know exactly what I would have said. It was just all part of the walking on eggshells. So because their behavior is so different in private than it is in public, other than my behavior, which my friends would see if I went to, like, say, coffee with her on my own, and then when I went with him, there were friends who would comment, "Oh, you're so different when you're around him." But that didn't mean anything to me. I didn't know what that didn't mean anything. Nobody said, like, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" I don't know, other than I thought my husband was a jerk and kind of difficult. What else would I say? I don't know. Everything seems okay. I don't know. We went to Disneyland and we're going on vacation and there's those things thrown in, so I guess everything's okay. So it's hard for people to pick it out, and I don't think I would have noticed. And I don't think I would have been receptive to talking about it.
And I just want to ask, you think all of this ties a little bit into your childhood? Just
I just think with the well, and also interviewing a lot of people, we do see that, right? We just see that with
mhm.
the way we're loved. It's not that we had to go through child abuse or something like that, but it's the way we were loved and the way that our parents could love us, that at their capacity. And so I don't know, I think about it and I think, why did I go through this? Why did I choose him? But I just always always think about, I love love. I really do. I really love love. That's probably why I stayed as long as I did in my marriage, because I was like, I'm going to make this work and we're going to be married forever. And I saw my parents married forever, and so I just thought that's kind of what you did. And so maybe that whole needy, I have done some healing work, and that's what I have found, is that I just needed to be loved. That little Laura needed to be told, the way you are right now is good and you don't have to strive, and no one else, you should just love yourself the way you are. And I don't think I did. I think I wanted somebody else to fill that need. And we're kind of brought up in society to think that as women, right? That we're supposed to have somebody else or a man or something to fill that need, that you're kind of half until you get your other half. And that's what I thought. I thought I was not any good unless I had somebody next to me. So, and now I'm good.
Demetria, you want to stop it? You're muted.
Look, I unmuted. I thought I was talking. Sorry. So we're almost at time. I want to ask if you can bring awareness to the audience. What are some things that helped you through your healing journey
Sure.
to get where you are today?
Well, I highly recommend therapy. And if you have been through something like this, a trauma informed therapist is best, because you do want to talk to somebody who understands what you went through. And because you don't want to get gaslit like I did in my therapy by my marriage counselor. My current therapist is amazing, and so she understands like what I'm going through, what's normal, what's not normal. And then journaling has been instrumental in my healing journey, because I feel like I do a lot of like praying when I'm journaling, but really it's getting those thoughts out and kind of like the things that are in your brain. And even if you're just writing like I hate him and all that kind of stuff, as you go back, because I've done this, I've gone back and I'm like, oh, I was so low, but look, I was healing here and I was starting to feel better. And it's so good to get it out of you. And as you're learning, I love going to YouTube. I love doing stuff like that, going to YouTube and looking for stuff, because I'm like, oh, I feel understood. And writing notes down, or even when you're journaling and saying, okay, I feel this way. But then when you go to YouTube and you see a video, you say, okay, well, that's normal. And I would even say that to myself in the journal. This is normal. The way you're feeling is normal. You're going to feel better, someday soon. But right now, this is normal, the way you're feeling. So journaling was really important to me, for sure.
Okay, thank you. So you're finally getting the attention from your dad that you wanted as a little
Yeah.
girl.
Yeah.
It feels
Yeah. I mean,
good.
my mom passed away, but yeah, and I miss her. But yes, as I got older, but I had to be vulnerable and start reaching out to him as well, and
Hmm.
loving him and making it okay for him to say these things to me. But I did healing to the point where I didn't need for him to say anything, and then it happened anyway. And that's what happens as you do healing. You get this, I don't know, higher vibration. God opens the door. You know what I mean? All the things to where he started saying that he's proud of me and all these things. And I no longer needed it because I had done the healing, that I wasn't going to get it. And now I'm getting it. So it's been really good. It's been great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now we are at the part of our segment where we call this shameless plug. So you do see your banner scrolling across
Yes.
the bottom here. You can
Yes.
let our viewers know how they can contact you, how they can utilize your services, anything
Sure.
that you have for sale, anything you want to draw traffic to, you
Oh.
have the floor.
You're so nice. That's very kind of you. Well, you can find me everywhere at that's where I'm at podcast.com and on all the socials. That's where I'm at podcast. I like to make videos. So please come follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. But I do all the stuff. And then, of course, my podcast is on all the podcast platforms. And I also have, if you go to my website, that's where I'm at podcast.com, I do have a free journal download for your audience. And I also have books in the Amazon store, because I am a best-selling author and I have books, and I also have a coloring book that I just released because art and anything like that is really good to help you relax. And when we have gone through abuse, we need to relax our nervous system, and coloring really helps you regulate your nervous system. So I have that for you guys, but I do have a freebie there on my website if you guys want to go check it out. Come find me everywhere. Come follow me. I make lots of funny videos.
Yep, go follow Laura.
Thank you so
Yes.
much, you guys. That's so nice of you.
It's an honor to have you. Thank you for sharing your testimony and being a blessing to our journey on our platform to help others through life
Of course.
experiences. So hopefully someone will connect with
Yes.
what you went through, your life traumas, where maybe they're stuck, so that they can start the journey to healing.
Yes, I
That's what
hope
that
so.
is. Yeah.
Thank you
Yes.
so much. I really appreciate it. You guys are great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So we want to thank you for tuning in to Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast, where we're going to continue to share life experiences. And if you are someone that is stuck, it is a podcast on here for you. And if you're going through narcissistic relationship, you may not know that you're going through it, but if you're feeling some kind of way, hopefully you can take Laura's testimony and help you on your journey to start that journey to healing, so that you
Yes.
can enjoy a wonderful life in peace.
That's right.
All right. So peace. We will see y'all soon.
Bye.